Welcome everyone to version 2.0 of the Midget Gaming Career Experience. And it feels like a brand new day here in our custom career mode gameplay because we've got a lot more functionality that we can take advantage of. Now to start off with, there's a few things that we need to go over, a little bit of housekeeping before we jump into today's video. First and foremost, I took some time and I moved all of the information over from our original spreadsheet, the original version of the Career Experience, up to what we're now using in version 2. So you'll notice that the team balance is the same, marketing level is the same, investors are the same, and so forth. All of the series screens, I've copied all of that information over. And of course, with driver investment now being a separate centralized location, the numbers here look a little bit different, but it all boils down to the same balance. So I took care of all of that. So all of that will look very familiar as we get started back into the gameplay. But there's a few things I do want to point out. Some changes I had to make since we were already in the middle of a career mode rather than starting one fresh here in version 2. So to start out, I'm going to hop over to the drivers for hire and we're going to scroll all the way down near the bottom. And there we are going to find our favorite racer in the world, Midget. I have added myself in here as a driver at a level 5. Why level 5? Well, because in our career mode, we had already made it up to the Cup Series, personally driving the cars. So you'll notice that in the Cup Series, the lowest level drivers are level 5. So that's where I decided to add myself because moving forward, we're going to be simulating most of the races rather than me jumping into iRacing and taking care of that. Doesn't mean we're never going to run any races. It just means that we're going to simulate most of them moving forward. So that's the first thing. The next thing we needed to do was set up all of the new features in version 2.0, starting with our manufacturers and teams. So if we head over here to the bottom of the teams list, down here around 118 and below, you'll see all of the entries for ring racing. I have an entry for each of the series that we're either already in or will be entering into in the future. So you might be wondering, why not just have one entry for ring racing rather than all of these separate ones for each series? The answer is very simple. Once we get into the dynamic adjustments, I want each of our series to be in a different situation. We might be doing really well in one series, but we might be headed downhill in another series. So I might need to move around how we spend money in some of these series in order to keep our performance up, or at least get it up to the level that we're happy with. That's why I'm using all of the multiple entries. Of course, a lot of this is going to make a lot more sense if you've already watched my highlight videos for version 2.0. If you've seen all three of those videos, then all of this is going to make a lot more sense to you moving forward. If you haven't had a chance to do so already, I certainly recommend doing so pretty quickly so that all of this will make sense. Now, the next thing we needed to do, now that we've got our teams in there, we needed to set up our series. How are we going to compete in the series? And boy, am I happy with the way this turned out. So to start off with, we come back to the main area and let's do Cup first. Of course, we got all of the Cup teams have already been pre-filled in here. It comes that way with version 2.0 of the Career Experience. And then of course, I've added our team at the very bottom. Right now, only one entry, but hopefully, ultimately, we will have a total of 4 cars in this area, a multi-car team. But I have pre-filled all of our information, including us as the driver, as well as our team. Now, you'll also notice that we have a manufacturer. If we come back over to the manufacturers and teams, each of our teams, you can see, has one attached. That's something that I set up, and there is no rhyme or reason why I chose these, really. The reason why I chose Chevy for the NASCAR series is because my favorite drivers growing up were mostly Chevy drivers. So I chose that. And then once we got out of the NASCAR series into areas where I didn't really know much or care much about the different manufacturers, I simply chose the third option in each of those. So that's how those numbers and placements came to be. Again, no real rhyme or reason. I just needed to choose one, so I did. However, these choices will certainly play into how well things go in the future. Maybe the Chevy is not doing so well in some of these series. Maybe some of the other manufacturers are. So who knows? It may be a real boost or it may be a hindrance to us. You just never know. But of course, that all also applies to our team, the manufacturer, as well as the drivers. So now that we have that, let's come back over to the series relative performance. So our Cup season is already set up. Now, if you take a look at where we are on the tiers, well, of course, tier 1 being the best, we are a tier 5, which is exactly where I would expect us to be right now. That's where we were previously in version 1 of the spreadsheet, so we're picking up right where we left off. Now, if we hop down to the super lates, about halfway down the grid, and we expand this is where things start to get really fun. Now, I don't really know any of the super late model teams, and it was really not easy to find a lot of information about them. So I just simply went with the defaults. And you're going to see a lot of these are multi-car operations, and I absolutely love it because my next step, once I filled in the entire grid, not that you have to, you certainly do not, but for our purposes, I wanted to. And then I went in and I hired drivers for all of these. Now, what we're going to have to do, as you probably already guessed, is, well, we already have a few of these drivers on our team. So what we're going to do first is we're going to get rid of a few of these that we have already hired, and we're going to find replacements so I can show you guys sort of how I did this entire thing. All right, so we need to find Carson Quapple. Are you in here somewhere? Yes, you are. And then finally, Sammy Smith, who is for sure in here. There you go. So now we have 4 openings. So where am I going to find these drivers? Well, we go back over to the drivers for hire, and let's see who we can find to drive these cars. Now, I've already used all of the drivers from the super late models. So I got all of these guys in there. So now, the last few, I started to move into some late model drivers, some additional drivers that we had. So what I did is I took the first 2 out of there, Brandon Setzer and Dylan Feccio, who is one I'm very familiar with, actually. So we're going to pick up from right there. We need a few extra drivers, so we're going to simply do some copy pasting in here. And these drivers, their performance level will factor into, along with their team and manufacturer, into what tier they ultimately are. Because right now we're getting some of the best late model drivers. All of these guys are going to be very high performance. And what that does for me, well, it's going to make things a lot more difficult for us to compete because we have some strong default teams in here. We have a lot of strong drivers in here. So we're going to have a strong team of our own. And we'll look at exactly how we stack up here in just a moment. But for now, let's come back. And we are going to pick up these last remaining slots. So this is exactly how I put this together. And this is exactly the way you could put together your own series. We're also going to pick up Caden Quapple. We've got 2 Quapples in the field now. And that's not a name you hear every day. So that's how you know they must be pretty good drivers. Well, it's in the family blood, I think we could say. So now if we hop down to the bottom, once again, we're looking for the tier. Okay, this final column over here. So if we scroll down, you'll see that all of ours are in tier 1. And the reason for that is not by default, because when I was setting up all of our teams, I gave us the minimum performance in each of these divisions. The reason why we are tier 1 instead of at the bottom is because if you'll remember back to when we were running each of these series, let's see if I can find the right one. Is it series? Yeah, number 5 here will be a great example for this. In the super late models, you might remember that we did these purchases, these investments, these gains of 25 and 10. So that's a total of 35 that we've already done and paid for. So I come over and I added these in. So I come back over, there's the 35. You see that in the player adjustment for our team. So that's how we got to where we are. So our total team performance on each of these is 65, which puts us near the top in that category. So again, today's video is about catching up on all of the setup and housekeeping items so that as we move forward, all of this will hopefully make more sense. So that takes care of the super lates, but I mean, this is a stacked field. And once we start simulating races, it's going to be a lot of fun to see who picks up the wins, top fives, and so forth. Because we've got some great drivers, but there are some other great drivers in this group as well. So now if we move down to our final series that we're currently competing in, the Dirt Midgets. I've done the same thing here. Of course, in the Midgets right now, we only have the one team, and we have our driver of Kaylee Bryson. So all of that has been moved forward, but there's one more thing I want to show you about Kaylee Bryson before we get into it. So I started off in the Midgets by bringing in the Dirt Midget teams, some of the more popular teams, some of the bigger teams that I know a little bit more about. And then I added the rest of the field as default teams that you see there. Then I did the same thing here. I brought in all of the drivers, tried to match them up with their real world team as best I could. And then for the rest, I simply filled in until we had a full roster of drivers and teams. And once again, let me just tell you, this is a stacked field. Now, how do we stack up here on the tiers 1 to 5? Well, we are a tier 1. Why? Once again, we go back to those relative performance upgrades. We had 25 previously, so I brought those over as well. So everything is looking great so far, but no doubt, as time moves forward, we're going to have to continue investing in our team so that we can continue to have the performance we're looking for. And of course, you already know where we're headed next. Our next goal is to expand our midget team. We want to bring in a second team and then a third and then a fourth because we got plans moving forward. And for those of you who might not have been with us, let's move over to Series 7, which is our Dirt Midget team. And this is what I'm referring to. Our drivers, we've already got them out here. Jade Avedizian and Taylor Reimer. We're going with an all-female squad, and the plan is to move them from midgets, and then ultimately, when they're ready, meaning when the performance says they're ready to go, we move them up to the Dirt Superlates, which will be Series 6. They'll run races there. They'll run seasons, and whenever they're ready, they'll move up to Series number 5, which if we scroll over, Series 4, rather, which is ARCA. But then, don't forget, we've got our super late model drivers. Maybe a couple of them want to move up. I'm sure, of course, we know in real life, Sammy Smith is definitely looking to move up. He's running races here and there in the Xfinity Series. Carson Quapple definitely wants to move up, so we'll be looking at all of these options moving forward. I want to pick up a full complement of drivers in each of these series, so that'll be something we'll work on in the future. But for right now, our focus is on the midget program so that we can get these drivers a ride. All right, so that takes care of most of the housekeeping. One final thing that I do want to point out today, and that is if we go over to the driver training, again, this is brand new as part of version 2.0. It's been completely reworked, and now we come over to Kaylee Bryson. We had been doing driver upgrades through the series screen. Now that's moved into a central location. Kaylee Bryson, she is a level 26 because we have done some upgrades on her. She has moved from level 29 originally. We purchased 28, 27, and 26 for her upgrades, which brings me to the cost of these upgrades. By default, if you download version 2.0 of the Career Experience right now, these numbers are not going to match. I increased the cost of driver training in version 2.0. But for our career mode, since we're already into it, I decided to go back in and change these numbers to match up with the original career spreadsheet, just so that we can keep all our numbers the same and we don't make a bunch of changes right in the middle of it as far as the financials. So that we spent 64 grand so far on Kaylee to improve her performance, and I would say based on her results so far that it's worked out quite nicely. I mean, we picked up a victory in race number 2. The first 3 races were top 5s. I don't know how you do a whole lot better than that from a new driver and a new team. All right, so with that in mind, now we need to hop into today's races. And my goal for today is to get a total of 10 races done here in the Midgets. And then I want to finish off the series in, I got to find it again, the Dirt Super Lates. All right, so we're about halfway through a season here in the Super Lates. I want to finish that off. Okay, I want to finish off getting through this particular season. And the reason I'm doing it this way is because by finishing this season and then coming over to the Midgets and running some more races here, that's going to give us a lot more money and should enable us to start off a brand new season with more drivers and more cars next time. That's what I'm looking for. So that is what we're going to be doing today. Now, in order to do that, we're going to need to use the brand new section from version 2.0. We're going to do some dynamic adjustments, and then we're going to simulate those races using the simulated seasons. So first things first, dynamic adjustments. I want to go ahead and get started with these. All right, so drivers here. I'm going to go ahead and do 3 of these in each area. Why 3? Well, I just decided to do 3. There's no rhyme or reason for that. I could have done just 1. I could have waited before I did any, all sorts of options, but I decided to go ahead and just do 3 in each of these just to get us up and running. And you can see the total adjustments. I already see somebody, one of the drivers is -8. They've already lost 8 points of performance before we've even gotten started. So it'll be that way all the way up and down. Some will gain. I see gain of 4 right there, gain of 3, gain of 7. So it's going to go both ways, and that makes things very interesting for me. So same thing here. We're going to do a total of 3. You notice this one ran a lot quicker than the previous one. That's simply because we have a lot fewer manufacturers than we do drivers. Then we get into the teams, and the teams, we have several teams, not nearly as many as we have drivers, but it'll take a little bit longer, as you can tell. So there's our second adjustment, and then our third and final adjustment, and we'll just see how it goes. I'm not going to spoil it by actually scrolling down and looking. Instead, what I'm going to do is go to Series Relative Performance to our Midget program, and it did not go well. It did not go well. How do I know that? Well, just take a look. We're at 7 on performance. We were at 10, so we lost 3 there. But if you'll notice, we're now a level 3, a tier 3 team. We were a tier 1. Oof, so not good there. Then you say, okay, what about manufacturer? Well, we chose the Dirt Midget 3, and don't worry too much about these generics in here. Everybody started at 100. So that is really just a difference in name only. Well, we lost 3 points there. So we lost 3 here, 3 there. What about our driver? So can we get some kind of good news? We started off at 50. Well, we lost 3 more here. Now, it would seem like it's the same adjustment, but it is not. They're all completely different. So we lost a total of 9 points of performance. That is not good. That is not good at all because, well, obviously because we've moved down 2 tiers, that means we got our work cut out for us. Some other people gained that much in performance. So we got a lot of work to do. And of course, that also means money to spend. Yikes. So let's see what happens. Let's just test something for a moment. What about if I add 10? If I go to 35? We're going to hit that. So that gets us up to a 2. Okay, that's not bad. What about 40? Okay, that gets us just inside tier 1. And the reason I say just inside is because there are 8 teams in each tier, so we just barely get there. But in order to get there, we need 15 on the relative performance update. So let's hop over. First things first, though. Home screen, we got 633,000. That should be no problem. At least I hope it's not. All right, so we're going to jump in here. I'm going to put 15. And then I'm going to drop. You notice no money is in here yet. It is waiting for me to put purchase right there. So that's 56 grand. That's not bad. And in fact, I'm going to go ahead and try to give us a little breathing room here. I'm going to go ahead and do 20. So that'll take us to 45. So we're spending money already. We didn't even run any races. Okay, that gets us up to 6. So again, this is something we're going to have to keep an eye on as we move forward. Okay, so that one is taken care of momentarily. Now let's run to the super lates. I'm almost scared to see what we've got here. Super lates, we're still in tier 1. In fact, we've done very well. We're at 29 here, of course, plus the 35 really helps out. So let's see, 65 is where we are. 64. So I'm seeing 74. Wow, they got some great rolls there. Of course, the same team has got multiple cars, so they're in good shape. But other than that, I mean, here's a 67, 65. So we're pretty much in the range. We're not that far off. There's definitely going to be a few entries that are better than us, but overall, I feel like we're doing pretty good there, as evidenced by the fact that we are 3rd, 4th, and 8th. But then we got 1 at 12th, and that's simply because something didn't go there. Now, if we take a look at our manufacturer, we're at 101, so that's good. We actually gained a point. Lost a point here, gained a point here. So that evens out, and it looks like, hey, we're top of the board here. There's some 99s, so we're good there. What about our drivers? So we started at 70. All right, and you can see 70 for the level 16s. The 17 started at level 60, so Carson, well, he dropped 4. We drop here 3 with Bubba, so that's not too bad overall. But again, everything is so close in here that dropping a few points here and there could be the difference in dropping a tier or moving up a tier. Now, as far as some of these other guys, Chad McCumbee, wow, you want to talk about great roll of the dice. He gained 7. So yeah, that definitely helps. That'll get you up into tier 1 if you're not already there. And if you are already there, that'll certainly buy you some insurance. So, okay, not too bad. I can live with this. I'd like to have everybody at tier 1, but I can live with this right now. Remember, I don't want to spend too much money on the super late models if I can get by with it, because right now we're trying to expand. So if we come back to the home screen real quick, 558,000, not too bad. Okay, so now we've done some adjustments. Let's run some races. All right, so we're going to run, we said 10 more. Actually, we might run a few more than that. If I come back in here, what is our sponsorship deal looking like? We got 14 more races. Okay, we can run some more races. Then we'll start with the 10. So, simulated. All right, let's hop into the midgets first. All right, so here we are. Now, I know this might be a little harder for you guys to see, but in order to fit everything on the screen at the same time from top to bottom, I am going to reduce the size to 90. Not something I take joy in doing, but it does allow everything to get on here, so hopefully you guys can still see plenty well enough for what we need. And I'll try to highlight and point out some things just in case. So let's go ahead and generate 10 finishes. So there's our first one. What do we get? We're 9th. Okay, I mean, that's not terrible. I'll take that. So again, what I'm looking at is right here. It's going to be this row right here that is going to be generated. Of course, 35th, that's no good. We don't want anything to do with that. That is not helping us at all. Oh, 34th. Seriously? We're tier 1. Oh, the roll of the dice is not helping us right now at all. Okay, there we go. Back to 8th. 35th. Seriously? This is what we're doing? I told you we had a stacked field. And I guess it took that to heart because we are not getting the finishes I was hoping for in these 10 races. There we go. A top 5. Our very first top 5. Whew. All right. I'll take it. Not what we're looking for, but we will take it. 20th. Come on. There we go. 7th. I'll take it. It's a top 10. And a 6th. All right. So not too bad. If we follow this across, we're in 17th position as a team right now. That is, well, it's just a roll of the dice. There's nothing we can do about that because we're already a tier 1. So even if we invested more money into the team, we can't do better than tier 1. Then it's just all down to how the simulation goes for each and every race. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab these races. I'm going to go ahead and do a little copy paste here. And then we got some additional work to do beyond that. But we can't do the straight copy paste. And if you've watched my third video on version 2, the third overview video, then you'll know why. Because I talk about that, and not only that, but how to get by that. And I'm actually going to use the script, the macro that I talk about there, to paste these values in. But you notice, oh, it just doesn't like this at all. And that's because we haven't filled in the rest of these. I'm going to simply do this with a standard event. Now, this is another thing that's going to definitely change once we get into the new season after we wrap things up today. So starting in our next video, brand new season, and I am going to bring in one of these sample schedules. So we'll have all of this pre-filled next time. All right, so we've got a few more races here to do. So I'm going to go ahead and drop some more of these in. Okay, so we need 4 more results, and let's hope for the best. Let's hope for better than what we got this time, because I don't like being 17th in points. So we're going to go to 14, and so how are we doing? Oh, it listened. The simulation gods heard me. Kaylee Bryson picks up the victory. Our first win, I will take that. That is what I'm looking for. Then we follow that up with a 7th. And then another victory. Thank you. All I needed to do, apparently, was just get off the screen for a minute. And then a 13th. Hey, I'm not going to complain. That moves us up to 13th in the points. Now, remember, we're not going to run this full season out. We're just running the rest of these races until it's time for a new sponsor. So that's all we're doing here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to grab all of these. All right, let me real quick make sure I got the right column. But 2 wins in those 4 races. Yes, please, is the answer to that. All right, so we'll drop these in starting here. Once again, I'm going to use that quick and easy button at the top. Okay, good. That is excellent. Oh, looks like I actually went too far. So we'll just actually delete this one off. No big deal. So that we can get a fresh start next time. You can see that brought Staples sponsorship to an end. So we will definitely get a fresh start, not only here, but I'm hoping at least 2 teams for next season. But we'll see how the money works out. Okay, a few more things that we need to finish up with here. We need our driver salary, of course. So let's go ahead and paste that down. Make sure I don't forget it, which I am most definitely prone to doing. Now, for right now, I am not going to deal with the chassis damage a lot. I'm going to take a quick look because I remember, let's say we got 1, 2, 3 of these, and I'm going to drop these in. So we're going to drop these in here. So we're going to do, it doesn't really matter a whole lot where I put these right now because we're trying to move along. We've got some super late model races to run. And I move over here and I see that the random for team 1 is on 1. Thank you very much. I will take that. So I think it was like this. But again, it's not a huge deal. As long as we get these in here, then I'm good to go. So we didn't make a whole lot of money here. We made even less from some of those finishes, but overall, not too bad. Next up, we need to head over to, is it Series 5? Yeah, there we go. Where we've got some more races to run here. So let's see, how many races do we need to run to finish this out? It is not going to tell me, apparently. Is that what we're doing? There we go, 15. So we need to run 15 races here in the simulated season, again, against a stacked field. So let me check one thing here. So can we get by with, I guess, yeah, let's just go ahead and do the 15. I had another idea, but that might just overcomplicate things. So let's just stick with 15. So I'm going to come into super late models, and you can see once again, our tiers follow us in. So we're going to generate some race finishes here, and let's see what we got. So season standing, you can see Bubba Pollard. Everywhere you see the blue filling in the cell, that is top 5, except with the difference of wins. Anybody who's got a win, it's in blue. So same thing with the race finishes. And so Bubba Pollard, after a couple of races, he's got a second and a third. It's hard to beat that. So let's go ahead and generate our next one. Okay, fell back a little bit there. Race finishes not as good as I might have preferred. We got an 8th, we got a 10th in here. Then we got 27th and 23rd. So definitely not good on those. There we go. There we go. So how do you follow up a less than stellar performance? Well, you win the next race. So Sammy Smith picks up our first win here in this 15 race segment. Meanwhile, Bubba Pollard is just crushing it. A third, a second, a third. Out of the 4 races, he hasn't been out of the top 10 yet. Yes, please. I'll take all of that. Now, unfortunately, Carson Quapple is just having a miserable start. He's down in 22nd position in points. None of this is good for him. I'm sure he's happy for everybody else, but he is not happy overall. So right now we have 2 drivers in the top 5 in the season standings. So I'm pretty happy with that. Bubba Pollard, another top 5 because of course he did. That moves him up to 2nd in the points. Oh, Bubba Pollard is getting it done. Another top 5 on race 6. Seriously, I mean, I think we've seen the extremes in today's video. Because over in the other series with the Midgets, we had some terrible finishes early on. But now Bubba Pollard is showing us it can go the other way too. And let's just hope that it stays that way. We're on race 6 of 15. Let's go ahead and generate 7. Okay, not as good. We're down to 18th. I must have talked it up. That's okay. We're still in the top 5 in points. We're still getting there. Oh, yeah. We're back to our winning ways with a 2nd place finish. Everything is good. Oh, boy, is that what I like to see. Season standing, Bubba Pollard. After 9 races, we're in the lead. Can't expect much more from him than that. Now, oddly enough, you notice that there are a few guys. Hunter Wright, 2 wins. Connor Hall, 2 wins. Bubba Pollard, no wins. And yet he's leading in the points. That is a bit odd, but it just shows you the consistency that he's had. Race 10, our first victory. Sometimes I swear I have the power to make these things happen. I am speaking them into existence. His very first win, and of course, that's going to keep you in the lead in points. Sammy Smith doing an amazing job in the top 5 in points. Stephen Nasse, he's hanging in there in the top 10. Meanwhile, Carson Quapple really doesn't want to talk about it right now. He is not enjoying his time this season. Now, keep in mind, all of this as we finish up the 15 races, all of this is going into the memory bank for who do we want to move forward. Now, Bubba Pollard, given his age in real life and things, it's not really all that feasible to try to run him up through the NASCAR ladder. So I'm going to leave him, as well as Stephen Nasse, out of this discussion. as to who we're going to move up. But the bottom two of Carson Quapple and Sammy Smith, they're fighting for it. They want to move up. All right, so there's our 15 races. So what do we get? Well, Bubba Pollard, first in points. Can't ask for more than that. Bubba Pollard, steady as always. Stephen Nasse, 13th. So he did not have a good finish to the year. He was 9th, fell out the top 10. Quapple, he's into 15th, so it's not as bad as it could have been with some decent finishes toward the end of the year. But then Sammy Smith was the star. 7th position, and he brought home a victory. So that is a tale of some different seasons for some different drivers. Bubba Pollard, steady as she goes, gets one win, but 12 top 10s in 15 races. That's consistency if ever I've seen it. And then Sammy Smith bringing home the win. Yeah, I like what I'm seeing here. That's good. It's making me think Sammy Smith is ready to move up if and when the time comes. But of course, there's going to be a lot of races run between now and then. So Carson Quapple is by no means out of this. All right, so let's go ahead and grab these finishes. I'm going to go ahead and grab all of these at one time. I'm going to do a quick copy. And once again, over here on, is it Series 4? No, Series 5. Yes. It's going to take me a long time to remember which one that is. And just to make sure, super late model. All right, there we go. So let's go ahead and paste those in. Once again, using our macro. And there you have it. Everybody has their finishes in. And I'm telling you, I cannot get over those finishes for Bubba Pollard. That is extreme levels of consistency. All right, we'll come back here in just a moment to our sponsors because we got some work to do there. But right now, I want to make sure I do not forget right here. Okay, come on. Come on, spreadsheet. There we go. I thought it was just going to force me to go all the way down forever. There we go. So now we've got all of that in there. To save some time, because we're running long today, I am not going to deal with the chassis damage. We're just going to simply skip over that. Too many races and too many finishes to deal with that right now, so we're going to skip it. And we need to come back, and the final thing we will take care of today is we will finish off our sponsors, because we've definitely got some to take care of. Okay, first things first. We're looking for some high 40s on these numbers, and we're not going to get it. So I see 12, 16, 19, nope. Publix, thank goodness you dropped in here with a decent offer. Not perfect, but it's decent. So now we need some more. Again, looking for high 40s. All right, these are much better. Not as happy with this length of the sponsorship. I would have loved to seen something along the lines of 15 to 20. But hey, we will take what we can get. 41. There we go. Adobe, 41,000 for 15 races. I like it. I like that quite a bit. Okay, team number 2. What do we get? Okay, Uber jumps in here with nearly 50,000. I appreciate you, Uber. That gets us down to the end there. Team number 3, what you got for me? What kind of sponsorships are you attracting? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. This is what I'm talking about. Google stepped up in a big way. Not only did they pay us 51 grand, but it's 16 races. Yes, please. All right, let's hope for more of the same. Here for team 4, what do we get? I'm seeing, okay, Logitech, 10 race deal. Not bad, 47,000. I mean, now that I've seen 50,000, that's kind of what I want for everything. I mean, we got to be greedy here because we're trying to make all the money we can make. More money, more expansion, more teams. All right, here I see 45 grand from Hilton Hotels. We appreciate your interest. We'll drop that right in there. And that is a wrap for today. We'll end today by coming back over to the home screen and looking at all of that glorious profit that we managed to bag today. We ran several races in 2 different series and came home with a boatload of cash. And when we come back next time, we're going to put that cash to good use, expanding our midget operations. So that is going to do it for today. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope you guys are having as fun with this as I am.